when I was diagnosed and going through my breast cancer journey. And it wasn't talked about a lot, and it was definitely sexual health was something that I just felt like I kept losing a part of me. Every, step of treatment, I kept losing that part of me, and I didn't want to. I wanted to get it all back. And I was a young woman and trying to understand how I could grab that womanhood sexuality back one step at a time. And, there's help there, which is what we're here to talk to you about. And Sabitha, I'm so happy to have you. Dr. Sabitha Pillai-Friedman is our professional advisor. She's been our advisor for, gosh, Sabitha, I want to say 6 years, 5 years?
Yep.
For sure. She received her doctorate from the Graduate School of Social Work and Social Research at Bryn Mawr College. She is an associate professor at the Center of Human Sexuality Studies at Widener University, where she teaches courses on couple and sex therapy. She also teaches courses on sexuality related topics for Drexel University Medical School and Penn School of Social Policy and Practice. She frequently conducts grand rounds for physicians on sexual health. She has published peer-reviewed journal articles and book chapters and is a lead investigator on a research study on breast cancer and sexuality. Dr. Pillai-Friedman has devoted a significant part of her career to support cancer survivors in addressing body image, relationships, sexual difficulties, and frequently speaks to healthcare professionals, cancer survivors, and patients about cancer and sexuality. She has been a psychotherapist for the past 25 years and has a wealth of experience working with individuals and couples in all stages of life cycle. She continues to maintain a clinical practice in Philadelphia and practices individually, relationships, and sex therapy. So we are, I know our group of women, like we have you speaking often at our Exhale, at our Thrive event, our alumni events, because, once we get through that treatment, it doesn't stop for us, right? We're still healing. We're healing in such an emotional way. And our sexuality is such a big part of that healing. So I am going to spotlight you at this point. You are able to now share your screen, and welcome. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you. Thank you all. I'm delighted to be here. I admire what Sue and her team are doing for Unite for Her, and how many lives they are elevating through this organization. I'm so proud to be associated with this organization. So I became interested in cancer and sexuality many years ago. I've been doing talks for Young Survivors Coalition, Unite for Her, all these organizations. And, and 10 years ago, I also was diagnosed with cancer. So I have walked the walk. So I will be, so my experience, my knowledge just does not come only from my, from learning books and research, but also from my own experience. So I'm going to present some slides to you. And I would, please be interactive. Stop me, ask me questions, and do not be embarrassed to ask questions, because that is what's going to help you understand the material. And also, I will answer any question you have. So just relax and enjoy the slides. I have a resource list that goes with all of this. I want to add my Instagram account, which I just newly got an Instagram account. I had no idea. I didn't want it. And then I learned that I can post articles and, messages on Instagram for cancer survivors. So I'm going to use it for that purpose. I just don't know. I didn't know how to put the Instagram account on my page. So my daughter said she's going to do that for me. And then my Twitter account, Molly's laughing. She knows how tech unsavvy I am. So, and I'm going to put my Twitter handle as well. So y'all can follow me, and I will post a lot of important messages, pictures, websites. So this is a topic that I get a lot of questions about sex and intimacy. And I like the topic, getting your groove back, because we've all been sexual before. to different degrees. So we need to really find it in whatever way we can. So that's why I find this topic a little bit, the title, interesting. I'm going to begin with a quiz for all of you. And you do not have to answer right now, or you can answer if you want in the chat, or talk about it or mention it. I'm going to admit somebody. One needs to be young, athletic, and healthy in order to enjoy sex. True or false?
False.
False.
Okay.
False.
Okay. All touching is sexual or should lead to sex. True or false?
False.
False.
Sex equals intercourse. True or false?
False.
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 Oh my goodness, I have a very, very, very people who, a very sex positive group here. Good sex is spontaneous with no planning and no talking. True or false?
True. True. No, it's false.
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 Sometimes there's a lot of planning.
It does take planning,
Well,
especially
we're all
now.
used to, see, we're all used to the Hollywood model of sex, right? In Hollywood, people don't talk about sex. They just, meet each other and they get very passionate and they start kissing. And, so we expect life to look like Hollywood sometimes. So I appreciate all the responses. So let's think about the responses here too. Hold on. Okay. So everyone can enjoy sex, right? I mean, everybody can enjoy sex in many different ways. So sex can be enjoyed by people of all ages, regardless of appearance and physical capacities. And research shows that even individuals with spinal cord injury can experience orgasms. So all ages, all body types can enjoy sex. And, and touch can be soothing, comforting, and makes one feel loved. So touch is really, really important. And all touching does not have to lead to intercourse. So touching we can just engage in acts of sensual and sexual touch without going any further. And sex is not a one-course meal. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this talk, it is this. Sex is not a one-course meal. You don't have to just go in for the intercourse. There are so many other things you can do, and it's all sex. Hugging, sensual caress, massage, cuddling, kissing, oral and manual stimulation, use of vibrators and other sex toys, and intercourse and other penetrative sex. So intercourse is only part of sex. There are so many other ways to enjoy sexual connection. So I want you to kind of keep this in mind because we are going to talk more about it as we go further, okay? And good sex requires planning and communication. So when you plan and talk to your partner about sex, then there is a chance for positive anticipation, that you anticipate something exciting and it lowers your anxiety. And you have more comfort with sexual and sensual experiences. See, notice how I talk about sensual and sexual together, because you can just have a wonderfully sensual experience that is also sex. Okay? And so when you plan, you can have a much more enjoyable sensual and sexual experience, and this can lead to bonding between couples. So planning and communication can actually be like foreplay, can actually enhance sex. What do we know about mind, body, and sex? what we know about mind, body, and sex is that brain is the biggest sex organ. We can turn it on and we can turn it off. So we can actually turn our bodies on by allowing our minds to be turned on. So we will talk about later about how to turn your brain on. And sex is not just for the physically young, healthy, and athletic. And I also told you that there's more to sex than sexual intercourse. When we go through illnesses and treatments, our sexual self gets altered, but our core remains the same. So if you have been sexual before, that sexual person is within you. The body may have been altered, parts of body may change, we may experience numbness in some parts, pain in another part, and scars, but the person inside is still sexual, and we need to find that sexual self. Please remember that. So in order to come to terms with our new sexual self, please remember, knowledge is power. We need to learn about the sexual side effects of treatment, because when we learn about sexual side effects of treatment, we will find ways to manage it. Because most sexual side effects have some way of reducing the effect. So let's find ways to manage sexual side effects. And also, it's this is very important. This is the second most important thing you'll have to take with you when you leave this talk. You need to put cancer in its place. It's only part of your narrative, and it's not your entire narrative. So do not call yourself, do not say that first about yourself. Sometimes single people ask me, what do I put in my profile? Do I say that I'm a cancer survivor? I say, put cancer in its place. What else are you? You are a librarian, a bookkeeper, you're a teacher, a dancer, an artist. There are so many identities. You're a mother, you're a yoga, you're a yogi, you meditate. There are so many aspects to you. So keep cancer as one of those narrative, a part of the narrative, and not your entire narrative. This is very, very important. Please keep this in your mind. And broaden your definition of sex. When you make sex, turn sex into a narrow act as intercourse, then it becomes very difficult to keep up with this definition, with this particular narrow definition of sex, because sometimes our bodies may not be ready for penetrative sex. So if we narrow the definition of sex to intercourse, then we are going to be disappointed. We need to broaden the definition of sex and include all aspects that I mentioned before into our sexual repertoire. So let's look at the sexual side effects of cancer for female-bodied people, okay? Surgery can result in pain, numbness, loss of sexual sensation. There could be scars, body image issues, and low desire, because surgery sometimes, that can result in numbness and pain that could then stop us from, because now we have to reprogram the way we enjoy our bodies. So if a breast is numb, we'll have to find other parts of the body that we can stimulate and turn on. And before you know that, this could, kind of be a little bit of a stumbling block unless you figure out a way to do this. And radiation can cause scarring, burns, and numbness, and extreme fatigue. And chemotherapy can result in vaginal dryness and pain with intercourse, hair loss, weight gain, and body image issues. And as I told you before, that most of these side effects can be managed. I'm going to be talking about that in the later in the presentation. But I think we need to know the facts. If we know the facts, then we'll find a way to manage it. Hormone therapy can also result in weight gain, vaginal dryness, pain, and hot flashes. I wish that physicians and healthcare providers will talk to people when they are providing them with treatment about the sexual side effects. Unfortunately, they do not. And so it's important for us to learn this on our own. If you want to know more about it, American Cancer Society has an entire website dedicated to cancer survivorship and sexuality. So you can it's an entire, I think, a couple of pages dedicated to it. You can look at it. So these are the most common sexual side effects of cancer treatment. So so most people have a hard time talking to healthcare providers about the sexual side effects, because first of all, they're not sure if this is happening because of the medication or because something has changed in them. They don't know how to present the question. And what studies are showing is that when healthcare providers talk about sex, then patients are glad to talk about it, but they themselves will not bring it up. But I'm going to ask all of you to not be shy to talk about sexuality with your care providers. Bring it up and find out what they can say. They may or may not know a lot, but at least they should be able to refer you, or they should be able to say, well, you're on tamoxifen. Yes, that results in your body is deprived of estrogen, so you may experience vaginal dryness and pain. Yes. So you can get at least that kind of basic information from healthcare providers. So I would say gather the courage to ask the questions. Do not be shy. They owe it to you. They owe this information to you. And once you get my resource list, please use all the information I have in my resource list. So I usually go to conferences, I look through websites, I read, and I find products and websites that are very ethical, and I provide that information in my resource list for cancer survivors. So please use them. There are lots of products that people can use for sexual enhancement. So I know that one person at least had emailed Sue and asked about vaginal pain. Pain during penetration. How do I manage it? Vaginal dryness. So a good way to deal with that is to start using vaginal moisturizers and vaginal dilators. The graded dilators that you're seeing to the right, it's graded. There are different, it's of different girth. It's a good way to sort of make sure that your vaginal walls are suitably dilated, so you do not go into penetrative sex without preparing your body well. So that is a vaginal dilator. And there is another product right underneath the dilators. The multicolored, the rainbow colored ones are the dilators. And below that, there's a product called O-Nut. It's a wearable ring that can be used by the male partner. You put the ring and it actually prevents deep penetration, which can be painful. So this can be a good way to engage in penetrative sex without having deep penetration, which can be painful. I also suggest that in order to turn your mind, sometimes you'll have to use erotic books, films that are female friendly, ethically sourced material. And I would also suggest that if all of you do not have a vibrator, you need to get one. It is absolutely important for you to figure out your own pleasure before you share it with a partner. And this is also good for whether you're partnered or you're single. You need to have at least one vibrator in your night table, bedstand, because it's something that will help you figure out if you can have an orgasm. How can you give yourself an orgasm? And there are many supportive pillows. There's a product called liberator.com. There's a website, liberator.com, and they sell these supportive pillows. But I would say just use pillows to make sure that you are in the right position and you're not kind of struggling to keep up. So using products for sexual enhancement is a really, really good idea. And I can talk to you more specifically about it if you have any questions, okay? So if you're single and dating, I would suggest that you follow all the tips to keep yourself healthy. And discuss with a therapist or a trusted friend about your readiness. Sometimes people ask me, when am I ready to date? That is very individual. You'll have to figure out, with a trusted friend or a therapist, when am I ready now? Is my body ready to kind of interact with another person? Of course, now we are in COVID. So I always tell my clients, this is the best time to actually date, because you really do not have to get together with anybody. You can kind of have a Zoom conversation for the next 3 or 4 months and really figure out a lot about that person before the vaccine comes out, and then you're ready to interact with them in person. So this is really a good time for single people to date. And I would suggest you carefully plan how and when you're going to talk to your dating partner about your diagnosis and treatment. You do not have to say that in the first meeting, because you really want them to get to know you first, get to know who you are. And then maybe, you can share it when you feel comfortable. And as I told you before, do not make that your main story. Cancer is not your main story. It is a side story. There are so many other things that are your main story. Please remember that. And practice safe sex and use contraception. So people often ask me, will talking to my partner about sex ruin the moment? I think, as I told you before, I think Hollywood has ruined all of us to believe that spontaneity is the single most important thing in sex. And I'm going to differ by saying, say goodbye to the myth of spontaneity and welcome planned spontaneity. Instead of fantasizing about the spontaneous sexual experience, plan it. Say, okay, on Saturday, let's have a play date. I wouldn't even call it a sex date. I would call it a play date. So whatever we can do to have fun, we're going to do. And so each person takes turn to plan the planned spontaneous date and come up with some ideas. And it's very important to share your turn-ons and turn-offs. What turns you on, what turns you off. Again, communication is really important. What are you in a mood for today? Talking to your partner about what do you think you would enjoy? And introduce play and humor. Sex does not have to be serious. It can be fun, and you need to forgive each other for what they're feeling, just have a very kind of a comfortable, shared, fun, playful experience. It's also very important to create an erotic environment. The wife says, I wish you wouldn't refer to the candles as task lighting. So, it doesn't have to be that way, but creating, keeping your private, bedroom as a somewhat of a sanctuary, as opposed to keeping your children's toys, dogs, pets, and, doing your taxes on the bed. Keep the bed as a place for you to enjoy, a sexual connection with your partner. Couples relationship and sexuality, try different times to be sexual. Remember, sex is not just intercourse. And think of sex, try different times to be sexual. Remember, sex is not just intercourse. Sex can be, like a buffet table. So it can be different things, right? Use lubricants for comfort, for sure. And use pillows for support as needed. Use a vibrator as needed. And share sexual fantasies. Talk to your partner about what you want from them. Take breaks as needed. And talk about what's working and what is not working. It's okay to say, I don't feel up to it. I do, you remember how you always rub my arm this way? I don't like it. It doesn't feel good now because my body is much more sensitive now. Or I like this. I like this. So you can actually talk about what feels good to you, because it's important for you to educate your partner about how your body has changed. And use humor and be playful. So if sex was food, what would it be? Would it be an appetizer? Would it be a main meal or a dessert? Right? I told you that sex doesn't have to be intercourse. So it can be so many different things. How many of you do not like to eat a big meal and just grace all day? So we can also grace on sex all day, just like, touching, cuddling, playing. That can be sexual too. So remember that. So sex is a buffet. So it's all food, right? Eat what you want. You pick and choose what you want, but enjoy the range and don't limit yourself to one thing. So the biggest takeaway for you is, why limit yourself to one entree when you can go for the buffet?